Hey, aloha guys, Eric West here, hawaiirealestate.org. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'm all about trying to get the word out about what's going on here on Maui in relation to the fire and the disaster after the disaster that's getting ready to unfold, I believe, in Oluwalu. So we definitely need your help in sharing the word about what's going on here. Today I am standing with Paul Deloria. He is leading an organization called Maui Community Investigation.com. I've already put a link in the description of this video to that. And the reason I wanted to have Paul on the channel is because he's one of the few people that is uniquely qualified to lead this type of an investigation based on some of the work that he's done in the past. And I'll let him talk about that a little bit. But I think it's very crucial that we continue as a community, a worldwide community, not just a community here on Maui, but worldwide, to help hold the people accountable for what happened here in Lahaina and to continue to spread the word and create awareness, because obviously it's been covered up and we need to just do everything that we can humanly possible. I don't believe there's any mistakes, and things happen for a reason, right? One of the reasons correct. Why you're here on Maui, your expertise, and to help bring awareness to this and bring justice. So there's a reason why you're watching the video, because you are also here for a specific reason and to help us. So we thank you for joining, and we're going to do a live, just so you know where we're at before we start the live, is we're here at the crosses. So this obviously is the memorial that was created for the fire, for the deceased, obviously, of the Lahaina fire. So it's with the utmost respect that we are here today and in this particular location, because this is part of the reason we're engaging in this fight, is to honor these people that paid the ultimate price and lost their lives. And we can never forget that, including especially the children, the keiki. So there's things that drive us to do things in this life because it's bigger than it's bigger than us, and there's a real motivation to make things right.
Well, first off, I want to just thank you, Eric, for all you've done in terms of getting the information out to our community. Early on, there were about 30 residents like Eric that was very concerned about what actually occurred, because there was a lot of things that just did not seem natural. Mm-hmm. So as we started to do that, we became a repository for our community. So we have over 1,000 videos that were taken from people who were in the fire there itself, and also who took a lot of photographs also. So as we started to gather this data and look at it in terms of the categories of things that had occurred, there were 30 categories of things that just did not make sense.
So anomalies, essentially.
There were anomalies, and we had questions. Mm-hmm. And as I went over those questions with 5 different former fire chiefs, they all said the same thing, that this is beyond a natural fire, that there's some occurrences that you never see in any other fires that they've been in, and all of these fire chiefs had at least 30 years experience. So again, it just raises these questions as to what are we truly dealing with at this point in time. And so that means that we really need to have a thorough investigation that's transparent and open, that takes community input. And right now, the situation that we have in terms of the government investigation doesn't seem like that's the case, where they hired underwriter laboratories.
And just to give the audience a little background, you were deeply involved with 9/11, correct?
That's correct.
Give me a little background on what you did during 9/11 and the aftermath of that.
So I was the grassroots coordinator for 911truth.org. At one point in time, we had over 300 grassroots groups that we were coordinating throughout the United States and Europe. Some of these groups had over 200 people in them. So there were a lot of activity in terms of trying to get the truth out about 9/11. And part of that whole thing that the government did was hire underwriter laboratories to investigate the tower collapse.
So the same organization, essentially, that is now in charge of doing this investigation for Maui.
So they looked at then all the different kind of, I guess you can say, scenarios that they came up with, that really were supposed to really do a thorough investigation as to why these towers collapsed, all 3 of them, including Building 7. And they would not consider controlled demolition. Instead, they came up with this thing called pancake theory, which was based on information that supposedly the steel girders collapsed because of the fire heat and things like that, and that allowed it to come down the way it did. Actually, it had all 11 characteristics of controlled demolition, but again,
but interestingly enough, though, it was dustified, though, right? I mean,
they came up with this theory, and what they did, they had to eliminate the center columns of those twin towers. They had to also give false information about the steel and how it contracts and how it bends. And so, again, this is the same group that put in that false information in the 9/11 Commission report, and this NIST report that was over 10,000 pages and is filled with misinformation and things that were distorted and really going far away from the truth so that they can come up with this bogus theory of pancake collapse. So they're the same group that is doing then this investigation for our situation that we have here in Lahaina. And again, it just raises questions. So what we've been doing as a community, we're saying, no, we're not going to let 9/11 happen again. Instead, we're going to have the community come out with the information, the data, like Eric has been collecting, as well as many of us in the community. And now we have a pretty solid case that says, wait a minute, look at this. Mm-hmm. So so if you go to our website, MauiCommunityInvestigation.com, we have a petition there, and we are asking for signatures of people so that we can really start to show our government officials that we want to have an open, community, transparent investigation that's objective and clear and that considers all of these 30 anomalies. And again, we're very leery about the government investigation. It doesn't seem like this is really getting at the truth from what we've seen thus far. And that's why we are, as a community, having this investigation. We need your support. We could, so please sign our petition at MauiCommunityInvestigation.com. Take a look at the data and how all these different categories are just raise so many questions. Mm-hmm. Like, what is truly happening here? And how, as a community, can we start to really address it so we can get to the truth so that this doesn't happen again? Now, one other thing, too, is that there's a lot of implications in terms of what's happening globally also. Mm-hmm. And I think as we start to get to the nitty-gritty truth of what happened here in Lahaina, it'll reflect on what's happening more on a global level in terms of all the fires and all of these hurricanes that are happening and all of the destruction, especially to resort areas that we're experiencing over the past year.
So the work that we're doing here and the work that you're doing as the truth becomes revealed could have implications around the world, essentially.
I fully, truly believe that there's no question in my mind that it has that type of implication in terms of the repercussions that we're looking at here in Lahaina. And my God, again, as Eric has shown, as we have on our website, it's amazing. And when you start to look at the bodies also, and the way the bodies are incinerated, again, it's not a natural fire. And that's why we have to get to the bottom of this. So your support, signing the petition, if you have the means to help us in terms of finances, that'll be great. We could use the donations because we're going to be going after this in a legal manner right now.
Because ultimately it's an information war as well, right? Because here we are 5 months and change after the fire. We have absolutely no coverage really on mainstream media. This channel is being shadow banned. Every time someone tries to step out, like Eddie Garcia against the dump at Olawalo, every time someone sticks their neck out, they try to attack that individual. So to me, the answer isn't individual renegades willing to step up. It's got to be the masses. It's got to be the people have to come up and rise up in a big way, in my opinion, for this to have an effect. Because if it's just you and me and Eddie and a few people, we need people around the world to realize that this isn't just about Maui and Lahaina and our little problem right here. It isn't. It is a problem that's proliferating around the world, and we need to take a stand. And in my opinion, if people won't defend the little beautiful island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean that they call paradise, where they come for their vacations, where they come to get married and honeymoon, make babies and all that stuff, if they won't care about this, why would they care about some podunk town in Australia or some little town in Iowa, right? If they got to care about, I would think that they would care about a place like this, because this is where they dream about coming someday to retire, almost like you did, right? This is like the final stop in a life well lived, so to speak. So if people won't pay attention to this, they won't pay attention to anything, in my opinion. So part of what we're trying to do is raise awareness and then hold people accountable for what happened here. But it takes a village. It takes everyone doing their little part. So I thank you for doing your part, because it's huge. And the fact that you're able to apply some of your skills that you have in your life. You're an engineer, and you've assembled organizations in the past. You were involved with 9/11 investigation. So you've got this unique skill set that I believe can really help propel this particular effort, because right now the cavalry's not coming, right? We are the cavalry, and we need to make sure that people pay attention to what's happening here. And then ultimately, once the investigation takes place, what kind of accountability do you see happening? How do you see this thing unfolding? Let's just say hypothetically, Paul, your community investigation is successful, right? You're just like, we got him, smoking gun, here's how it happened, here's why it happened. What's the next step? Where do you see that going? Did they get arrested? Did they get thrown in jail? How does it end for you in a best case scenario for the people?
Well, I think that great question, because as we move forward, what we're dealing with are belief systems here, and I think that as we look at creating a level of consciousness and awareness of what's truly happening on a global level, I think that's going to be a big awakening. And my hope is that, first off, that Maui can be part of that awakening. Mm-hmm. As we start to look at what truly happened, as we start to look at bodies that are burnt in just a pile of ash, as we look at this historic center that we had, our cultural center for Maui, as well as our small business epicenter, totally destroyed. And again, as we look at the impact, it certainly does awaken like what truly happened. But as we start to get to the truth, hopefully that'll awaken a lot of people, so that again we can move forward. And the way that we can move forward, first of all, is to make sure that there's 4 different avenues that we're pursuing, so that we can have a legal, effective community investigation that's public, that's objective and clear, and that considers all the anomalies. So we need your help to do that. As I mentioned, sign the petition. That will really show them the level of support that we have for this. And I think that as we get to the truth, it can open up a lot of possibilities, because they do not have the same type of mechanism they had for 9/11. The very day that 9/11 occurred, it was Osama bin Laden, that's all you heard. And so it got into our subconscious like, oh my God, we've been attacked. And they wouldn't allow anyone to even consider the 11 characteristics of controlled demolition for those towers to fall in their own footprint.
And here it's wildfire, right? And no accountability for the fact that there was no alerts that were sounded on the sirens. There was no alerts that were sent on text messages. There was nothing on radio, television, or the internet. There was no water in the hydrants. There was police that were blockading people from leaving the town, even though they knew the power lines were deactivated. You have an emergency proclamation that was declared July 17th because they didn't get a bill passed on June 5th. So July 17th was an unprecedented emergency proclamation for an emergency that hadn't even happened yet, right? So the list literally goes on and on and on and on, yet the sheep are asleep, in my opinion. Well, a lot of the sheep are asleep, in my opinion.
Hopefully this is a wake-up call.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things, just as you mentioned. And then when you start to go and look at some of the strange anomalies, how the fire was bypassed certain areas and certain houses and structures, how you had...
And it's many different fires. It's not just one contiguous fire. It's many different fires in many different locations.
That's right. So we're getting information on all the fires that occurred in Kula, There were some that happened.
Let's not forget there was another fire that started that day as well.
That's right.
What are the odds of that?
Well, again, we have to look at, these strange occurrences. We have to look at what's happened with the different response from the fire department. Why did they leave a fire site that was previously
with 80-mile-an-hour winds blowing? How could any fireman leave? And why can't we get the radio transmissions? Why can't we get our FOIA requests answered with the police transmissions, with the dispatch, with the body cam footage? Why does the AG, the Attorney General of Hawaii, have to subpoena the police department to even get their own FOIA requests? Where is the outcry? How is it that we're getting ready to dump 400,000 tons? This is the disaster after the disaster on Maui's mother reef, a hope spot, right? Bypassing every environmental law, allowing them to put it on a thin barrier on porous cinder cone that's going to go down into our fresh water supply that could affect every person on the island, because aquifers are big giant lakes under the water. You have protected species, humpback whales, turtles, manta rays, yet the government is getting ready to do this just because they want to. And you have 120 people that came out to testify against it. In 48 hours, the mayor says that we're still going to do it. So that vote is going to be put to the Maui County Council this Friday. And I think that council members such as Tamara Paulton and the other ones that voted against it, there were 7 that voted for it and 2 that voted against it. But the 7 that voted against it, I believe every person watching this should reach out to them, give them a call, give them an email, and call your local environmentalist company representatives, legal. I've been talking to an attorney today, but we all have to do something, because they're going to pull off the disaster after the disaster, and that could blight the entire island, in my humble opinion, based on the horrible stuff that's in this toxic ash. Talk to Eddie Garcia. He has the studies, and what they're trying to get away with right now under our very noses is going to require another community investigation.
That's correct. So this is why we are getting together as community, and why we're taking responsibility for our environment, for our whole area. And I think that's what's required right now at this point in time, that we can't rely on government to really investigate or go into the nitty-gritty of what truly happened about different things. We have to take that responsibility among ourselves and do things like just, again, put petitions out to support different ways, to support individuals. If you're here on Maui, to really get involved with the Uluwatu site. Again, these are all things that we need community support and involvement and engagement, because if we come together as community, that's our true power. And that, in order for that power to come together, we have to really work together as community and work collaboratively together. And that's our whole purpose in what we're doing. And just like my being here right now with you, Eric, it's about this, all of us working together, collaborating, and being a team, so that we can truly become a force to put an end to some of these strange things that are happening to our communities, not only here, but globally.
Right.
So again, it takes all of us coming together, but this is a time to awaken.
And if you live on Maui, right, if you're one of the fire victims and maybe you're just at the hotel hanging out, don't have a job, I mean, the wonderful job would be to get involved and to get activated. If you're a Hawaiian community leader, if you're a Hawaiian, the Hawaiians don't seem to be showing up very much on this particular topic. I don't know why, but it's baffling in my opinion. It is 100% baffling, and how we can have 120 plus people show up to testify against this dump, for example. In my personal opinion, it takes 2 things. It takes massive action amongst the people, and then it takes legal action. So you got to have both. If a bunch of people just show up, the government's just going to ignore them like they have been doing. So we need to have some kind of legal action, because in the end, I think that's the only thing that they might listen to, possibly, is the law. If you notice, anytime the Maui County Council has a meeting, it's broadcast live. There are 2 attorneys that are watching, that work for the Corporation Council, that work for the Corporation of Maui. There's 2 attorneys that are listening to every single word. Do you know that?
Oh yes, I'm very well aware of that.
So where are the people's attorneys? You would think that those attorneys work for the people, but they don't. They work for the government. The government obviously doesn't work for the people, so now the people have to go out and get their own attorneys. So that's the next step that we're going to try to do against the Olawalu dump, is try to get an emergency injunction filed, and we're going to try to get an attorney to help us with that. And so we were just on a call just a few minutes ago talking to him. So it's both, but the people got to show up. So if you're listening to this and you love Maui and you don't want them to get away with murder, literally, and environmental genocide, then you got to do something. You have to do something. You can't just watch this video and thumb up it and comment and go, oh yeah, go get them. There needs to be more. More has to happen.
So go to Maui communityinvestigation.com. Again, sign our petition, and again, be informed as to the full scope of what's truly happening. As you look at all the categories and all the many anomalies that are listed there, it will certainly
blow your
raise
mind,
a lot of questions as to say, oh my God, this is not a natural fire, and that we need a thorough investigation. But in order to do that, we have to come together as community. And as Eric's saying, that the government is not supporting it. Look who they hired. Look at who the Attorney General hired to do this investigation. Again, it just raised more and more questions as to the reliability of anything that they come up with. That's why, again, it has to be community-based. It means us working together collaboratively. And again, if you can participate in any way, shape, or form, by signing the petition, by contributing, by being involved in the Olawalu situation, we are going to look at 4 different avenues so that we can be assured that we have a very clear community investigation and hearing into this fire. So again, we do need some support along that way too, because as Eric said, it's up to us as community to really say and push back and say, no, this is not the truth. We have to get to it, and here's a way to do it. And again, we just can't fall into their trap and rely on
We got to get people activated, man. Like, you don't even live on the west side of Maui, right? You live over in Haiku?
I live in Kihei.
He lives in Kihei. And a lot of the people that stepped up against the Olawalu dump, they're from Haiku, Paya, upcountry. You know what I mean? So it can't just be like a bunch of like environmentalist greenies that are just coming out of the woodwork. It needs to be like all the multi-millionaires that have purchased homes here, that have got serious resources, that have serious intellect, that have serious connections. It comes from celebrities. How many celebrities do you know that call Maui home? A lot.
Quite a few.
A lot. And you don't hear them saying anything, do you? Why is it just you and a goofy real estate agent standing out here freaking out about this thing? Everyone's got to get activated. And if they don't, you are literally going to let them steal this island. Literally. And oh yeah, by the way, Mayor Bisson says, oh, it's because we have to hurry up with the dump because we need to get these people moved back into their houses. Guess what? They are not going to move back into those houses and rebuild them for at least 3 years. It's just not going to happen. They're not going to be able to rebuild for that long because of the environmental hazards, because of the supply chain issues, because most of them are underinsured, because most of them are landlords. They didn't even own the house. So it's another narrative that doesn't hold any water. Just like saying that there's ashes and he let that one go because, let's face it, they only said 100 people died and they should have had those people contained, you would think. So if there are other ashes in there, why don't you disclose how many people actually perished in the fire? That's never been fully disclosed, has it? You go count these crosses that we're at here right now. There's more than 100 crosses here. I've counted them. There's more than 100 crosses, and there's more than 100 people. So a lot of these arguments that they throw out there don't hold any water. So it's important to get real clear on what's happening, because they're going to use confusion, they're going to use misdirection, and they're going to use misinformation to guide their bad doings, essentially. So the only way that we can fight this is to get the truth out there, which is what your investigation is all about, and getting people activated and involved and to care more than just watching a YouTube video, but hopefully taking action.
That's it. So please get involved, participate, because at this point in time, there's so much happening not only here but globally, that even if you're not here in Maui, again, this type of action that you're doing can really support you in the future.
Yes. Because
again, I think this is something that will be affecting a lot of different communities. So the investigation is crucial. We're not dealing with the same type of situation with 9/11 where they had to sequester the data and information and wouldn't allow us to gather information. We've gathered the data and information. We have a lot thanks to people like Eric. And again, there were so many people that were in the fire that took videos and pictures. It was unprecedented in terms of the actual data that we have.
The evidence.
And the evidence it makes it clear that, again, this is not a natural fire, and we need the community to step up, to be empowered to say, no, we're not going to let the government shove this down our throat, a false narrative as to what occurred.
Right.
Again, the only thing that they're relying on at this point in time is
your passivity.
No, your passivity, and also blaming global warming.
There you go. Yeah, global warming.
And if you want to blame global warming, well, we did studies in terms of the investigation of what's the temperature ranges since 1936. And guess what? The temperature fluctuations has been normal. There's been many years that have been much warmer than this past year. So again, when you look at the data and information, the facts, their whole narrative is bogus on global warming when it comes to Maui and as a cause for the fire itself, you know. And again, we're looking into all the other pieces that they're doing in terms of blaming the Hawaiian Electric or blaming the brush or blaming the county for not cutting the brush. It goes on, but are they really looking at the true cause? And that's what we see is not happening. Because again, the anomalies does not account then for all these other things that they are supposedly investigating. So again, I think it takes all of us as community at this point in time. Yep. There's enough data and information, and I think we have to work together as community and collaborate.
Agreed. Okay. Well, thank you, Paul. I really appreciate everything that you've done, my friend, and I know this video is going to spark some folks out there. I truly believe.
Good,
and
I hope so.
I believe everything happens together for good for those that love God. We all love God, right? He's going to help us because that's what we need, right? If you're going to fight big government, if you're going to fight corruption, you're going to fight these people, you need the help of a higher power.
We certainly do.
And I believe that that's going to happen. And God is going to do it because of these individuals here that were mercilessly slaughtered, in my opinion, because there's absolutely no excuse. There's no excuse for them not having warning about this fire. There is no excuse. There's not a single excuse. And the fact that the people that were at the helm are still allowed to make decisions is shocking to me.
Yes.
It is shocking. They're still running the show. And if you find that to be an injustice, please get involved. Please help. Please do. At very minimum, share the video, like the video, put it on your social media, put it on your Instagram, put it on your TikTok, text it to the people that you know, because that's the number one thing, is to get the word out. Number two, check out Paul's website, MauiCommunityInvestigation.com. Sign the petition, give if you can. And also, Lahaina Fire Truth is another place that I've got also for people to get more information. And then Veto the Maui Dump, VetoMauiDump.com is another place you can go to sign a petition. Over I think 10,000 signatures already for that one.
It's great.
And then reach out to the government and ask them to be accountable. And the more noise that we make, the more people that show up, the more people that take time out of their day.
That's right.
I mean, I've got a job, you got a job. There's things that we need to do to make a living, to provide for our families. So we're all doing this on a volunteer basis, right? So literally, everyone needs to step out of their comfort zone to make a difference. And if we don't, quite frankly, we're just going to lose the battle and we're going to lose the war. So it's really important. And we're at a very, very crucial place right now. Very, very crucial place in this story with what's about to happen with this dump, in my humble opinion.
Yeah. So all what's happening here, I think, is our Alamo in terms of making people more consciously aware of the battle that we're in and the challenges that we face right now as communities, not only here, not only throughout the United States, but globally at this point in time. So again, your participation, your engagement in any way that you can would be greatly appreciated. As Eric said, this is about community coming together at this point and making a stand and saying enough already.
And getting educated. And there's so many resources right now. If you go to Eddie Garcia's Instagram page, he's got so many documents out there. You go to Tracy Irwin, Brush Junkie, so many good videos. She just put one out recapping all the anomalies. You've got, I can never say it, Michelle over on the Big Island, Inner Blossom Wellness.
I guess so. Something like that.
She's helping out. We have Hustle B, and he just disappeared off the face of the planet. So he was putting out some amazing content. Hustle bitch. I don't know. He just disappeared, man. But go listen to his content. There's so much research that people need to be doing and taking an interest. And please go to these different resources. But the first stop would be MauiCommunityInvestigation.com. And we thank you guys. Hopefully the wind hasn't been too bad, but we wanted to stand one of the few places that we can still legally stand, right? You can't park on the back bypass anymore, otherwise you'll get a ticket like I did. By the way, just an update on that. Because the state dismissed that ticket, they dismissed it. We didn't even ask for it to be dismissed. But because they dismissed it, Mike Yoder had to drop the case essentially because we no longer had a standing. So yeah, it's a real battle, and the attorney.
But you won.
We won, sort of, I guess.
Sort of.
Well, the whole idea was to challenge the constitutional legality of the emergency proclamations. And by the way, it's the emergency proclamations that they're using to suspend the environmental laws that they would normally have to go through to do this dump. So if you were a private corporation and you wanted to do this to the land, you'd have to adhere to all these different environmental laws. You'd have to do environmental impact studies. You'd have to do archaeological site studies. It would take you years, and it would never pass, right?
That's
because
right.
It's 600 yards from the ocean. But the government, because they have the emergency proclamation, can essentially bypass all of the laws that are in place to protect the Aina, to protect the land, to protect the environment, to protect the people. They can just bypass all that. They can just ignore it all. Now, last time I checked, is that anarchy, or how would you? What's that called?
Well,
when you bypass all the laws and just do what you want.
I guess
chaos.
You usurp and you then do what you want.
Just do what you want,
regardless of the laws. So again, I think that there's so many different pieces to what's happening. That's I think a reflection of what we're facing globally at this point in time.
Right.
And it's so much of it is condensed right here, right now.
It's called an attack on our country, is what it is, and the very foundation of what built this country. Right. The reason people left England and came here was to avoid taxation without representation, to avoid the king telling them what they could do. So we came here specifically to be the land of the free, the home of the brave, right? That's our Constitution, and those are the rights that we have. They're all being usurped by an authoritarian government. That's just the truth. And people have been shouting this from the mountaintops for a long time, and everyone says, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Well, keep watching, because next week what was conspiracy theory last week becomes the truth.
Yeah, I would say instead of conspiracy theory, we just say conspiracy truth.
Conspiracy truth, yeah.
So because there are people who are conspiring, and I think that we have to really start to just get this veil off a lot of the consciousness of people so that they can become truly aware of what's going on. I think more and more people are waking up. Certainly the pandemic was part of that awakening. 9/11 certainly did. The assassination of Kennedy certainly started to wake people up. But again, as we look at Lahaina, I think it could be another big catalyst that hopefully will start to get people engaged, involved in saying that we are not going to allow this to happen anymore.
Because in a war, there's never a certain outcome, right? You don't know who wins the war until the war's over. So your victory depends on your ability to mobilize assets, to have the right strategies, to have hopefully God on your side to help you win that war. But a lot of people are just like taking a back seat, just waiting to see how this thing turns out. And you know what? You are the front line. We are the front line. You are the front line. This is it. And so if we don't mobilize the very grassroots of this country, then we lose.
So it's not a time to sit back and really allow others to do it, or you think others can do it. I think it really, as Eric's saying, it really requires all of us working together as a collaboration, working together and starting to show that we are a force. And that force is a power that can, I think, eventually change the corruption that we're facing right now. And again, as we uncover it, as we keep on doing these things like this investigation that we're doing here for our community, again, it'll waken a lot of people up, and that's our hope that it does, so that action can be taken. So again, please get involved, participate in any way that you can, because I think now's the time.
Now is the time, for sure. All right, Paul. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate
Eric,
it. Yes.
A pleasure. I appreciate for all what you're doing too.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It's an honor and a duty to do what little teeny thing I can do. And
well, it's more than a little teeny thing.
I just pray it works, right? Because all I care about is we win.
I'm with you, brother.
We win.
I'm with
Period.
you.
They're not going to get away with this. I prayed over this town the day after it burned, and I said, we will be an example to the world of the best way to handle this type of an event. We will make an example. And so the fact that we're getting ready to dump all this stuff right next to the ocean is not in alignment with what I believe is the best way to handle this. By the way, just to say this, Mr. Fenton said there's only side loading containers. That was one of his, he's in charge of FEMA. There is not, there are top loading containers. They're not just side loading containers. There are cargo ships that can transport in bulk. You don't even need the containers. And there's cargo ships, I did some math, like 3 or 4 cargo ships, the big ones, would haul all this stuff out of here, and there are top loading containers. So everything that they say, you can just Google it up and see that it's not the truth. It's just so easy. There are solutions. They're hoping you don't do your research. The good news though is we have Google, we have the internet, we even have AI. I went to AI, ChatGPT, and I said, I have 400,000 cubic yards of toxic ash on a remote island. What's the best way to get rid of it? AI gave me like 20 paragraphs. And one of them was, one of the top ones was do environmental impact studies. You must study the environment. You could just go to ChatGPT and come up with some better, AI is the brain of the entire internet. It's read the whole thing and it gives you some input. So we've got the tools, we have the availability, we have the best technology. What we don't have is good, honest leadership. And if we could get that in place, they can just use AI. They don't need to be smart. They can just use AI. But we need honest integrity. That's the most important thing.
I agree. I agree, and that's why we're doing what we're doing, so that we can have accountability, integrity,
yes,
in how we move forward with all of this, so that we don't get duped like we were for 9/11, for example.
Don't let them dupe you. All right, guys, thanks again. Coming to you live from Lahaina. We're just going to do a quick moment of silence as we look at some of these crosses, because ultimately we need to do this in honor of the people that perished, and we need to do this in the honor of the people that are trying to survive in the aftermath of having everything in their life destroyed, and then in honor of the future generations, the current generations living here, but the future generations, unborn generations of Keiki, and for the Hawaiian people. And we're just going to have a moment of silence as we take this in. So thank you guys, much aloha,
Aloha.
and until next time. We just walk back. to say this. Dear Lord, in Jesus' name, I pray this video goes further and wider, and this message rings truer in the hearts of more people than we could ever expect or ask or think. I thank you for this in Jesus' name. Amen.